to say thank you very much for coming, and the first thing that I would like to ask you is for you to tell us a brief story of your football career. I know that you have been here for 15 years, but you have a background before that. So if you want to share with us a little bit of what has been your life in football.
Well, I arrived here in 2015. Before that, obviously back home, played pretty much all my life. Played from I think I joined a club when I was 8 or 9. Had a couple of junior clubs, and then when I went into senior football, I always played Sundays because I always went to watch football on Saturdays at home. I always went to watch Leeds on a Saturday. So I always played Sundays right up to about a year before I came here. I think I didn't play the last year, and then played for 2 years here, but got injured and just went into coaching from there.
That's good. Where about you from in England? You're from Leeds?
From Bradford, just next door to Leeds.
That's good. The next question is, I would like you to surely you have a life before Invercargill, and so you have experienced football in England before. You have experienced football here in New Zealand. What's the biggest difference?
I think the biggest difference that I noticed when I first came here was that I think at home the game's a lot more aggressive. It's a lot louder. Here, I find that Kiwis are very quiet footballers. I think we get some lads that come in from different backgrounds and they add a bit something, but overall I think it's quite quiet here. Whereas at home you've got, it's not just the 22 on the pitch. Everybody who's there is watching, is giving you stick to each other, and so yeah, definitely louder. And I just think it's a lot more physical, a lot more aggressive back home. But I think as well that could be an era thing as well. Yeah. So as I said, I didn't play for a year before I came here, so it'd be 6 years since I were involved in football at home. And obviously the game's moving on all the time, so I do think that could be like that at home now. I don't really know.
What about at the junior level? Did you have much contact with the junior level back home?
No, not really. The only real contact I had with junior level were like if friends' kids were playing and things like that. If they got to big games, we'd go and see that. But again, I think a lot louder, a lot more boisterous, I think for junior football it'd be. I think the big change, and you see it in New Zealand as well, and the big change in England as time went on was the move away from wanting the kids to be big, physically big and strong, to the smaller ones being able to be skillful and move the ball quickly. Whereas when 15, 20 years ago, when I was coming through, the bigger, stronger ones were the ones that thrived because the pitches weren't as good and everything else. So I think that was the biggest change that we saw in the last 15, 20 years in junior football.
I know you are a huge Leeds United fan. Why Leeds? Obviously, you are from close.
Yeah, my dad supported them. My granddad was from Ireland. He was a Bradford City fan. But for whatever reason, my dad just didn't take to it and decided that he support Leeds. So he just brought me up on that. He started taking me to games when I was 2. So I didn't really have a choice. He wasn't letting me go anywhere else. So, yeah, just like I say, I always went to watch Leeds on Saturdays at home, away. I've been around Europe watching them. So, yeah, that was my childhood, really.
I remember when I was a teenager to watch when I started watching the Premier League. Leeds were on high, so they were quite a powerhouse in the Premier League.
We're a good side then.
And what's the biggest achievement you recall from watching Leeds
all they won the league in '92. We're what, 8 and 9. That's some of my earliest memories. And then from there, later on, Champions League semi-finals in '01, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
For us, that were a massive, especially when you look at the teams that we beat. We knocked Barcelona out. We knocked Lazio out, who at the time were an unbelievable side. We beat Milan at home, drew with them away. We just went on this massive run. Deportivo were champions of Spain at the time. We beat them, and so I think that would be the biggest one for me. That was the one that I can remember most and that I could enjoy the more, and I really appreciate as well, because I never thought I'd see him get there.
And then you moved to Invercargill 15 years ago. And that leads to my next question, which is, how did you get involved with Queen's Park?
Yeah, so it was 5 years ago. Sorry, Louise. It was 2015. 2015, 5 years ago. To be honest, when I came here, I genuinely didn't know there were any local footballs here. And I was on my own. My family needed to get residency visas. I was on a work visa, so they were still back home. And it was my boss. He asked me if I wanted to play down here and told me that there were a league. Oh, yeah. And then he went into the wholesalers and spoke to a guy, Gary Rose, who used to be president of Old Boys, played and coached Old Boys. And I went in and he asked me if I wanted to play. And he was trying to get me to go to Old Boys. And one of our members walked in behind and was like, "Oh, no, you're not going to Old Boys." And he rang Kev Downey, was a coach at the time, and he told me where to be and when, and that was it. I just turned up for a training session and I enjoyed it and stayed.
That's good. Moving a little bit into the coaching side of things, how do you describe Queen's Park philosophy? And probably another question: how does that philosophy influences or influenced your coach since you started?
I think Queen's Park's philosophy since I've been here the last 5 years is to develop youth, to bring players from within. You can't rely down here, you know yourself, the challenges of trying to get players from outside. Even when a player does move here, you've got 7 or 8 clubs all trying to sign the one player. You've got to get a bit lucky with them knowing somebody, or they come for a job and they work with somebody. So we've always tried to develop the young ones. We're just starting to see the benefits of that now in the last couple of years. We've had 1 or 2 come through, but now we're starting to get 5 or 6. And I think the big thing for me is, or has been, the challenge has been to get them through into the Donald Gray side and not just have them playing Div 2 or Div 1 or whatever. To do that, old players have had to sort of move aside or drop down to Div 1. But again, there's been no pressure from the club to do it. Nobody from the club said you have to put these young ones in, but the way we've looked at it is we've got them, we know how good they are or how good they're going to be. We might as well take a chance on them now. And if it don't work for a year, 2 years, we know that in 3 years that they're going to be as good as anything that we have got. So, well, why not give them the head? If you're good enough, you're old enough, I suppose, the old saying.
Right. And well, Queen's Park has been through sort of a regeneration over the last couple of years, and you, I guess you're lucky enough that you have a few youth players coming through to do it slowly and not in one time only, that you just throw the kids to the Lions and they don't have anyone that works pretty much as a backup, I guess. What is so I guess you coached Donald Gray last year, and the year before you have been involved with Div 1.
I did Div 1. I did 2 years at Div 1, yeah.
And since you started coaching, so 3 years ago, what's the funniest or sort of most awkward moment you've had as a coach?
I'll try to think, actually. You asked me this last night. I'll try to think. And one that comes to mind is it was very early on. I think it was my second game in charge of Div 1, second league game, sorry. We'd been through pre-season. We'd done okay. We got to the final, and then Old Boys they were dominant. They smashed us in that final. Then we played Old Boys in the league. We got beat, and then we played Gore at home. And we started off 4-4-2, and it just wasn't working. We were 3-1 down after about 60 minutes. It was 3-1, so we changed it, and I went 4-3-3. I matched them up. And I thought, if nothing else, let's just not concede another one. We'll just take the defeat. That's it. We got back into it. Got back to 3-3, and then looking back, I should have changed it and just stuck with a point. But because we'd come back, I honestly thought we could win it. Anyway, they went and scored and beat us 4-3. And afterwards, a couple of lads come to me and they says, "Oh, we didn't really understand what we were doing when you changed to 4-3-3. Like, we don't really." I said, "Well, so you didn't understand what we're doing in 4-4-2." I said, "Because if you look at the result, we lost 3-1 in 4-4-2, but we won 3-1 in 4-3-3. What do you want me to explain?" So,
there is I guess as coaches we have those moments that really stick into us, either for good reasons or bad reasons. So that's my next question. What so far in 3 years of coaching Division 1 and Donald Gray, what's been your most memorable moment and the most disappointing moment?
The most disappointing, I think the biggest learning, the most disappointing would be, again, it was Gore again. We were in Gore when the pitch used to go the other way, and it was as wide as anything I've ever seen in my life. And we got taught a lesson that day. I think they beat us 6-1 or 6-2 or something. 6-1 it was. We scored right at the end. It was one of them days, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I think for me, the thing that I learned that day was that up to that point, I think I'd been a bit too excitable and on touch. I was like a fan, really. I wasn't really coaching. I was just running up and down and making a bit full of myself, to be honest. So I learned that I had to take a step back and do things differently. From there, we went 24 games without losing a game, and then Old Boys beat us to win the league. And that led on then the week after, my favourite moment, the week after we played Old Boys again in the Edinburgh Cup final and beat them. And that'd be my favourite moment because that's my first trophy. But it were also the fact that they'd beaten us the week before. We were 10 minutes away from winning the league, I think, and then they scored. So you've got to lift the lads again. You've got to go again. But the whole thing, the only reason that we were there were because of the learnings that we had from that Gore game a year earlier. That was, as I say, was just the worst day ever. So yeah, I think, as I say, it led into a good thing in the end. But yeah,
good stuff. Before we move to the next question, I just revisiting here some stuff about you and about Queen's Park. And this was actually not on the script, but I remember last year or the year before, I think it was the year before. You probably weren't the coach. I was trying to remember the game you played for Shedham Cup against Otago Uni.
That was last year, yeah.
I was last year. Yeah. So I remember, and it's good to talk about this because this is regional football. This is part of the environment, part of the process. I remember that game was played on Surrey Park.
Yeah.
Surrey Park. Your club grounds, and the grass was quite high.
Yeah.
I would ask you how did you prepare that week?
We were, because obviously you had the Southland football had the Southland team that year. So the good thing about Chatham Cup and when you have players in the Southland team is you get them back for the Chatham Cup game. The bad thing is that you have to integrate them into your side. And I spoke to them. We got Caleb and Sean from Southland coming back. Caleb's played on that pitch before, but not a lot. Sean had never played on it. On Cody as well, sorry, but Cody would have played on it a fair bit. And I spoke to him before training started. I said, look, we've got the option of playing on the turf. He says, but these are second in Southern League. We've got an equaliser back there. The grass is long. They'll hate the changing rooms. They'll hate the ground. They'll hate everything about it. I think we should play them on there. And they agreed. Sean laughed. He said, get hose pipe on it, everything, you know. We'll just make it a bog. Luckily, it rained night before as well. So the preparation that week were all about those three being integrated in the team, that everybody else knew what their jobs were. It was always going to be 2 banks of 4, defend for your lives, stay in the game as long as you can, try and nick something on the break. First half, we had 3 or 4 good chances.
Yeah,
we could have been in front. I think if we'd have got in front, I think we could have won it. The way that we were playing and the way the game were going, but the difficulty was they scored first early in the second half, took it away from us. But yeah, the preparation were all about hard work, have fun, go out and enjoy it. They're the key. You're playing against a team that are a level above, at least one level above. Second in Southern League, all the pressure were on them. They're travelling. Let's just make it horrible for them, and we did that. We definitely did that.
You took it till the second half, and the things were. I remember that even after being 1-0 down, I think you had a chance, and I think it was Caleb had a chance, a really good one, and the things could have happened. But well, he's the cap. He's the cap.
Oh, you know, that was a plan. As I say, it was a plan. Try and keep it at 0-0 for 60, 70 minutes, and then we could get fresh legs on and just see what happens. And unfortunately, I think they scored on about 55. And as you say, we did have the chance, and then they scored again pretty soon after, and that was game over from there. But look, they're a good side. They are a good side. But the beauty of that was as well, Southland had played them the week before on the turf in an early kickoff. So I actually got to go and watch them the week before. So I got a good look at them for a half before I had to go to our game. So yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Getting a little bit into the coaching side of the things, more into the technical stuff. You coach. I know that you coach Donald Gray and Division One. So you mix it up. You have players from different levels, and you have to juggle that. How do you deal with that? So, what's for you the most important outcome of a training session, considering that you have pretty much 2 teams training in once? What's the most important outcome, and how do you deal with that?
I think the most important outcome for me is that everybody enjoys it. You've got to enjoy it. Lads are paying to be there. You know, you've got to put on something enjoyable. I think there's sometimes when, because of the levels, there's sometimes when you just have to change it, and it's sometimes when you just have to split it when it's just not working. And it's about getting those ones that are just below that level capable of stepping up when you need them. Like last season, we wouldn't have been able to put teams out if we hadn't been able to rely on our Div 1. We were losing that many players through injuries and stuff. But we've got a lot of boys in Div 1 that sort of sit on that, just on that line where they could play Donald Gray, but they're actually better and they're more comfortable in Div 1. But if you lose a player, they're more than capable of stepping up. So you want them to know, if they do step up, to know what the job is and what they've got to do. And then in Div 1, we want them to play the same way that we play. So again, if a player has to step up, they know the job. They're just going into a position and they know the job. And it just makes life a lot easier if you are losing players. And as we know, the challenges are, lads have got work, they've got to work, you know, they're not going to turn work down to play football. So family problems, childcare issues, all that, you're always going to need players from Div 1 to come up at some point.
Do you have a structure to your sessions? Do you consider that you want the lads to enjoy, and that's your main focus, and then you have to deal with that with sometimes splitting, sometimes I guess you have to swap players between groups to make up numbers to do whatever you want to do. Do you have a structure to your session? Do you structure always the same way, or it really depends on what you want to do?
I think like everybody else, it depends on numbers. You have an idea in your head and you think you're getting 26, 27 people there and you end up with 12, 10 or something. But I generally have a pattern that I follow. So it's sort of a build-up, so it'll be a warm-up and then it'll be, obviously, we've been in pre-season, so it'll be the fitness work and then it'll be some sort of basic ball work, like it might be just a pass following your pass drill or whatever. And then as you get more technical, that's when you start needing to split it. As you build up through the session, it's more when you start to split it, it's because you might only need 11 or 12 players there to get the point across.
Yep.
And the others that you've got, there might only be, just to keep it simple, you might have 11 in one group. The 11 in the other group might actually be made up of 7 Div 2 social players who don't care about learning about shape or an overload or out of press. You know, they just want to come and kick a ball. So you might just put that group into a small-sided game and they enjoy that. Whereas with the main group, you do something a bit more advanced, a bit more technical, just for, it might only be 10 minutes. But they're getting what they need as well.
And comparing Division 1 with Donald Gray, and obviously, in your opinion, how important is that for Donald Gray? The shape, the structure of the team, being more organized. Do you feel it makes the difference, or the inspiration of the players and how motivated the players are will probably make the difference if you have good players, obviously.
I think if you look at, I think they're both as important as each other, but if you look certainly last season, Old Boys won the league on being organised, well structured, good at the back. Old Boys are always dangerous in the attacks, a couple of attackers that they've got, the personnel that they've got, but their strengths at the back. They know that they don't need to score 4 or 5 goals to win a game. They can get one and just sit back and defend one. They're the best at that in town. But I do think there's a lot to be said for going and pressing, going and trying to win a game. I prefer my teams to play on the front foot and try and win the ball high up the pitch. And I think you saw last year in pre-season, when we won the pre-season, we had pretty much a full squad to choose from. That was us playing how we want to play. And we beat everyone, but we never had that personnel again all the way through the season, barring maybe 1 or 2 games. So it's tough. It's tough to know what's it, but there's more than one ways to win a game of football, and that's what makes the sport so exciting. You know, if you look at the 4 teams, there's 4 very different styles of play, the 4 Donald Gray teams. So yeah,
and that's another reality.
Who knows? It's personal opinion, I suppose. It's
and that's another characteristic of the community level, which is this week you can count on your best ones. Next week you have 2 or 3 doing night shift and they can do it. So people can say whatever they want, and I think we both coach at community level, and we know that dealing with that is very hard. It's very hard. Sometimes you want to prepare, even if you want to prepare, you have something on your mind at the beginning of the week, and then someone comes on Tuesday and say, look, on Thursday I won't come, and maybe on Saturday I'm not available. I can tell you on Friday night. So it's the way it is. So as long as you have everyone happy, I think you are halfway through. Shifting the focus to the players and trying to find here some funny stories. Dealing with such a wide range of players with different ages, ability, whatever. We always deal with some interesting characters who are very good to the, I don't know, to the morale of the group. Who's been the player you deal with, the one who disturbs the most? The one that is the pain, is the real pain.
The most disruptive.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be Tyler Hayes. Oh, God. He won't mind me. I tell him, he knows. Well, Tyler's a lovely kid. I love him a bit. And he's going to be a top footballer. But sometimes he just needs to know when to show up. He can't help himself. And we've had a few Barneys the last couple of years. We've had, I love him a bit. So we get on really well. But yeah, he's a character. He's Tyler.
There's always someone like that.
Yeah.
And who is the one, if you have any, who is the one that at training you don't even notice that he's there, but then at the game he's the one that really stands out? And if you need to count on someone to solve the problem, he'll be the one to step up. You have any? Not all the teams have it. You might not have anyone.
I don't know if we have anyone in the Donald Gray squad that's quite like that, but Dan Bell can be a little bit like that. He's played a couple of Donald Gray games, very important for Div 1, but sometimes in training he looks like he's got his laces tied together, or like he's just not there. But yeah, Dan definitely is one that comes to life in a match. He's very important for our Div 1. Again, steps up, always does a good job. Tough, strong centre-back. He'd be the closest to that description, I think. We haven't really... Donald Gray. Again, it's a bit of a change now. Like, I think when we were young, you had a lot like that, but it's a bit different now. These young lads are all super fit and they do plenty away from football as well. So they come and they're actually switched on and they want to work hard and they want to put everything in. So,
and especially in squads where you have players who really want to play football, because sometimes we don't train a lot. Sometimes we train once or twice a week. They all want to be there, because if they don't want, they don't even show up. If they are tired, they don't show up. So it's not like when for example, back home you sometimes train 4 or 5 times per week, and there's always those lads that they don't really want to be there. They prefer to have the day off, but culturally that's probably not acceptable. So they go and you don't even notice, and would probably be better that if they had the rest.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that is one of the. I think it definitely is something as you get older. That though, you don't want to go back out in the cold when you've got home from work.
And who's been the most talented player you've ever coached?
Oh, Rio, without a doubt. He's at every training. He's super fit. He leads the running. He tactically is very aware of everything that's going on around him. On the ball, touch is brilliant. Pace, strength. He's deceptively strong, actually, is Rio. He's only slight. Lads bounce off him. He uses his body really well. Low centre of gravity, gets around the pitch, gets around people. He's good in the tackle. He's got everything. Rio's got everything. I think the only thing I said to him at the start of last season was just to add goals, and he ended up being our top scorer last season. So he definitely did that. I think we just need to find a way this season of actually getting him playing further up the pitch. Last season he was having to do a bit too much in the defensive side of the middle third rather than the side where he's going to hurt teams. But yeah, Rio, without a doubt, he's one of the best players. He's one that if I'd played with back home, he'd have been a top player back there as well. He's just a top player.
How do you pick your starting 11? Based on what?
last season it were whoever were available. No, I think there's a lot.
Do you have any special rules in place that the players are aware?
We've said this season that because of the size, we've actually got quite a big squad this year, and we've said because of the size of the squad that we're always going to have a side that's capable of playing Donald Gray training. So unless you text in first to tell us that you're working or you've got a family issue or whatever it is, then you're not going to play on Saturday. If you just don't turn up without telling us, then you're not going to play. So far, nobody's done it. Everybody's stuck to that, so that's good. Because again, if you don't mind if people don't come, as long as you know that you are only going to have 10 or 12, you're not too bothered. And I think they know as well that if they're going to Div 1, there's a good player going to take the place. So they might not get back in, and that's just tough. So that's one rule that we will implement this season. Hopefully it'll be a success. It might work, it might not. The other one, I think for me, it's about looking at the opposition. It's about players in training. There could be a player that's not in your team, and then on Thursday at training he's brilliant, and I've got to find room for him. He's in a good space. We'll give him a go, or you might even just put him on your bench and throw him on for 20 minutes or whatever, depending on what position he plays or who it is. I think the other thing as well is if you see, particularly for young players, if you see that they're having a bit of a bad time, you sometimes just need to take them out of the team, just not for any fault of their own, just for whatever reason, it's just not working for them. And they just might need to go play Div 1, especially if it's a young forward. You always know with young forwards, you played there yourself, you know, if they stop getting into areas to miss the chances, they need to come out. They have to come out. Just go down a level, go and score 3 or 4 in Div 1, and then come back and we'll take another look at you the week after. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you need to think about, but I think for me, it's mainly just looking at the opposition and thinking about who's best for individual jobs.
What's your goal for the season, or goals?
To win.
To win Donald Gray?
Yeah, always to win. Now, I think with the squad we've got this year, I think when I took the job, I had a 3-year plan. So I've had 1 year, and the plan was to do better than we've done the year before. So the year before, we did nothing in the Cups, and we finished 4th in the league. I think we finished 4th in the league the 2 years before that. So the plan was to finish 3rd last year. We finished 3rd. We managed to win the pre-season. Unfortunately, didn't do anything in the Charity Cup. Then it was to move it on and actually challenge for the league this year. And with the squad that we've got, we have to be challenging this year. If we're not challenging this year, then I'll be very disappointed. Let's say that. And the cups, well, I think we're only going to have Charity Cup this year now, aren't we? So that'll be just what it is, and hopefully we can challenge in that as well.
Good stuff. So we're going towards the end, getting to the final part. I already anticipate this question, but I can go back a little bit. In the games can be quite emotive sometimes, and I personally like this side of the game. Not that I, as a coach, that I put too much on that, or that I read or listen too much of that, but it's something that I know. It's curious. The team talks, especially halftime team talks. What's your style? Do you go mad sometimes? Do you prepare them? Do you prepare pre-match talks or is pretty quiet, relaxed?
I think pre-game's always about giving the lads as much information as I can give them about the opposition. So I try to go. So if I've seen the opposition play and I know roughly the formation that they're going to play, or 3 or 4 key players, and try and give them as much information about that as possible. Last year we played some teams 5 and 6 times, so you didn't really have to do that by the end of the season. At the start, it was quite important, and I think it's not going through every single player and saying he'll do this, he'll do that, but the key players, identifying 3 or 4 key players in each side, and how we're going to deal with that, and how we can use that to our advantage. Not how we're going to stop them, but how we're going to stop them so that we can go and play. Not just about stopping them. There's got to be, players have to see that you're trying to win a game, in my opinion. I don't think, and I'm not good at setting up a team to not lose. So I think when I'm doing that, it's always with the purpose of what we can do about it and how we can go forward from there. Half time is very much read the situation, really. I think there was one game against Thistle at home last season where it just wasn't good enough. We just didn't turn up. We were 4-0 down at half time. I think it was embarrassing, and and you can't. So yeah, there's a few choice words, but you can't just shout at people and say this is what's going wrong. You've got to think of a way of putting it right as well. So we changed the formation. We did things different, and we challenged them not to concede another goal. But 4-0 down, the game's gone. Don't go chasing it. Let's not concede another goal. If we can nick 1 or 2, then fine, we're back in it and we'll build from there. But don't concede another one. Second half, we conceded 1 as goalkeeper got injured and everything changed. I think we ended up with 10 men because of the injury. We'd already made the subs. But as I say, you're proud of the second half performance. And the Southland boys actually came, they couldn't believe that we'd lost. They all thought we were winning because we dominated the second half. But as I say, so even if you're going to go in, to me, even if you're going to go in and try and get that reaction, you've still got to then finish it off with something constructive and positive. Otherwise, they just don't want to go back out. But sometimes as well, you might go in and a senior player might be saying it all for you. So you just keep quiet, and then you just say, right, well, he's right, and this is how we're going to put it right.
All good. Last couple questions. The most challenging ones. Would you ever coach another Southland club? Another Donald Gray side?
I think it'd be highly unlikely. Look, you never say never, but no, I don't think so. No, I wouldn't.
Well, but you just left the door open.
I think
the next year.
The only way that it would happen is if anything happened at Queen's Park, or if Queen's Park were not involved anymore. But that's the only way it'd happen.
And I did this question to Rich as well last week. If you could sign any active player from another Donald Gray side, who would you sign?
Yeah, it's a tough one, that. You'd have to say, it'd have to be, and it's not too controversial, I would say it'd never happen, but it'd have to be Jack. There's only probably 5 players maximum in our league who can just take a game away from you like that, and he's one. And he doesn't even have to be playing that well. He can just produce one little bit of magic. His team could be playing badly, and it could be him that just steps up and does something. It don't have to be necessarily him scoring. It could be a little bit of a dribble or a pass. He's one of a very small group down here. But having said that, we actually don't need that. We more need a big, strong, vocal centre-back. But I don't see that sort of player here. So you've got to go the other way and say it has to be Jack, because he's, in my opinion, he's the best player outside of Queen's Park.
Well, you're going to put him on his toes tomorrow when he listens there. All right. Look, Paddy, thank you very much for the chat. This time everything went all right. I think I'm guessing the live is still on. So I want, on behalf of Southland Football, to thank you for your time. Wish you good luck for the season. We'll be in touch anyway. And yeah, I don't know if you want to send any message for Queen's Park or for whoever is listening.
No, just to everyone, look, to everyone involved. It's been frustrating and a bit of a kick in teeth, really. This, but everything that's gone on. But hopefully we'll be through it soon, and we can all be back playing football. And hope to see you all soon and have a drink and a good laugh and forget about it the last 8 weeks, really. And yeah, good luck to everyone involved. Hope we all get through the season, no injuries and what have you, and let's have a good one.
Hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Look, thank you very much. I'll see you around. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis.
Bye-bye.
See you, mate.